Step quietly into a British classroom of the 1950s, and the first thing you notice is the silence. Wooden chairs scrape, chalk dust hangs faintly in the air, and 30 children sit upright, waiting. A single glance from the front of the room is enough. No whispers, no questions, just instant stillness. Today, that feels almost unbelievable. Yet back then, it was ordinary, expected, unquestioned. Authority wasn't explained or negotiated, it simply existed. And what's most striking isn't the rules themselves, but how completely everyone accepted them. Pupils, parents, even society beyond the school gates. So how did authority become absolute? To understand that silence, we have to step outside the classroom and into Britain itself. The early 1950s were years of rebuilding, not just bricks and streets, but confidence. After years of uncertainty, people craved order. Routine felt reassuring. Clear rules meant stability, and stability meant safety. In that world, institutions were trusted to know best. Schools reflected the wider rhythm of daily life. At work, you followed instructions. On buses and trains, queues formed neatly. In offices, factories, and public buildings, hierarchy was simply how things worked. You didn't question it, because questioning felt like rocking a boat. Everyone was trying to keep steady. Parents carried the same outlook. Many had grown up fast, learned to adapt, and valued discipline as a form of care. Sending a child to school meant placing trust in a system designed to prepare them for a structured society. Authority wasn't cold or cruel. It was seen as protective. Today, we encourage discussion and challenge as healthy habits. Back then, certainty mattered more than debate. This way of thinking didn't begin in schools, and it didn't end there either. It shaped how Britain lived, worked, and quietly held itself together during those rebuilding years. School life in the 1950s was shaped by rules you rarely saw written down, yet everyone knew them. When an adult entered the room, children rose from their chairs without being told. Books were opened together, pages turned in unison, and neat handwriting mattered almost as much as the lesson itself. Instructions were followed first time, every time, not because of fear, but because that was simply how things were done. There was no expectation of discussion. You copied from the board carefully, kept your eyes forward, and waited patiently to be spoken to. These habits weren't taught through long explanations. They were absorbed, day after day, until they felt natural. School wasn't a place for negotiation or self-expression. It was training for the wider world beyond the gates. And within that structure, many children felt a quiet pride. Doing things properly meant you belonged. You were part of something orderly and dependable. Today, we value individuality and questioning minds, but back then, learning your place felt like learning your purpose. And that belief followed pupils home every afternoon afterwards. One of the strongest pillars of school authority in the 1950s was the quiet agreement between home and school. Parents and teachers stood firmly on the same side of the line, united by trust. If a message came home, it was accepted without debate. Schools were seen as experts, places that knew how to shape children for adult life. Teachers carried a status that stretched far beyond the classroom. They were educators, guides, and examples of how to behave in the wider world. Their judgment was respected, not questioned, because respect itself was a core value. Most parents never even entered the classroom, and many felt no need to. Education happened there. Home life happened here. Today, conversations between parents and schools are constant and expected. Back then, silence often meant confidence. Handing authority over was not seen as losing control, but as doing the responsible thing. That shared belief strengthened the teacher's role and reinforced a system where challenge felt unnecessary. And trust quietly did the work everywhere today. Authority in 1950s schools rarely announced itself loudly. It didn't need to. A calm voice, a straight posture, a pause before speaking were enough to command attention. Respect came with the role, not with performance. You didn't wait to see if an adult deserved it. You offered it automatically. Lessons moved at a steady pace, guided by routine. Registers, recitation, quiet work, all unfolding in the same order each day. There was comfort in that predictability. You knew what was expected, and you knew your place within it. Voices were seldom raised because they didn't have to be. Today, classrooms often invite discussion, explanation, and shared understanding. Listening is one option among many. Back then, Listening was the lesson itself. Absorbing instructions without interruption was seen as a skill worth mastering. That expectation shaped how children spoke, behaved, and carried themselves long after the final bell rang, preparing them for life. Looking back, there's no denying the sense of security that world provided. Rules were clear, lines were drawn, and everyone knew where they stood. For many, that structure offered comfort, a steady rhythm to follow in a country still finding its feet. School felt safe because it was certain. There was little confusion, few surprises. But within that certainty, something else was quietly left out. Personal voices were often hushed. Questions could feel like disruptions. Creativity had to wait its turn. In teaching children how to fit in, schools sometimes forgot to ask who they truly were. And yet, that's the nature of any era. It gives and it takes. The strength of the 1950s classroom was its unity. Its cost, perhaps, was its silence. It felt safe, but it also felt final. And as the decades rolled on, a different kind of classroom began to emerge, shaped by the growing desire to be heard. Today's classrooms hum with questions, conversation, and curiosity. A far cry from the quiet obedience of the 1950s. Could we ever return to that level of trust and authority? Perhaps not. Society has changed, and with it, our expectations. But those early lessons about respect, structure, and knowing your place still echo quietly in many of us. Perhaps it wasn't better or worse, just different, shaped by the world we knew then. For more of these unbelievable memories, tap the video on your screen. The 1970s stories are something else. Don't forget to subscribe.